Welcome to the Maria Liberati Show, where food meets art, travel, and life. Thanks to everyone all around the world for listening and joining in. A special ciao and bonjour to my listening audiences in Italy and France that have been growing and growing. Mille grazie and merci beaucoup for joining us. What does food mean to you? The Mona Lisa, a bottle of Chianti, and day-old bread. My idea of the perfect picnic, in Tuscany that is. Picnic season is here and no one does it better than the Tuscans. From the elegant but simple buffet table to the rustic style, who can refute that they have turned simplicity into an art and science? It feels as if I am the only person on earth who is not in a state of frenzy to get out the old barbecue, since Memorial Day has now come and gone. Is it some kind of Pavlovian dog signal that sets off when summer arrives? Time to take out the hot dogs and hamburgers and break out the barbecue, the same old boring fare. Maybe my different take on the holiday comes from living a transatlantic lifestyle between Italy and the US. Tuscany is never far from my heart or mind, even if I am not always there in body. It is the place that seems to have invented the very idea of the casual but elegant, simple but sophisticated picnic. Grilling is part of the summer fare in Tuscany, but where else could day-old bread be so chic? Used in a panzanella salad, it is so uber tasty with a dash of Tuscan olive oil, fresh tomatoes, fresh basil, and paired with a glass of Chianti or Brunello. But you don't have to venture to Tuscany to eat Tuscan. Try a Tuscany home staycation and create the same relaxed feeling. Try a rustic vase with a few sunflowers, brightly colored plates, no tablecloth to simplify the setting, and hope for a beautifully sunny day. Make this a summer to picnic in style. To quote the man who practically invented the Tuscan lifestyle, Leonardo da Vinci, simplicity is an art. Sharing with you two of my favorite recipes for a summer staycation to Tuscany. They're both from my Gourmand World Award-winning book, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, Holidays and Special Occasions, 2nd edition, published by Art of Living Prima Media, Inc. And you can get a copy on my website, marialiberati.com, or Amazon or Kindle, or many booksellers online, or ask your local bookstore to get a copy if they don't sell them already. Or if you'd like to share a photo of one of the recipes here and post it on any social media or my blog comments with hashtag The Maria Liberati Show, you could win a free copy of one of the books in the Basic Art of Italian Cooking series. Tuscan panzanella salad. 12 slices of day-old crusty bread, 4 tablespoons of white wine vinegar, 1 cup of extra virgin olive oil, a half a pound of red ripe tomatoes, 1 red onion, 1 fresh cucumber, 1 handful of fresh basil leaves, a pinch of salt, freshly ground black pepper. Slice the bread into 12 slices. Place the bread in a bowl with a 1/4 cup of water and a tablespoon of vinegar. Leave for 3 minutes. Remove the liquid and squeeze the water out from the bread. Yes, that's right. You're going to squeeze it gently, almost like a sponge. Place the wet slices on the bottom of a salad bowl. Top the bread with tomato slices, sliced cucumber, sliced red onion. Drizzle on the olive oil, 2 tablespoons of vinegar, a pinch of salt, freshly ground black pepper, and toss gently. And you have a panzanella salad, the typical panzanella salad of Tuscany. Grilled porcini mushrooms. This is my favorite thing to grill. 8 large porcini mushroom caps, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 handful of fresh parsley, finely chopped, 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, salt and freshly ground black pepper to taste. Clean the mushroom caps with a wet paper towel. Do not put the mushroom caps under water, but clean delicately with a damp paper towel. Chop the fresh parsley and garlic. Place the mushroom caps, olive oil, chopped parsley, garlic, salt, and pepper to taste to marinate in a bowl for 3 minutes. Turn over and marinate for another 3 minutes. Place the mushroom caps on a hot grill for about 10 minutes and or until they're tender, and you have a great main course or an appetizer for your Tuscan picnic. So what does food mean to you? Food is crucial to culture. It is the very thing that brings us together in good times and bad. And what culture is more renowned than Italian culture? In fact, U.S. News and World Report ranked Italy as #1 for the country with the most cultural influence. The criteria for this ranking was based on the arts, including the culinary arts, entertainment, and fashion, among other things. The best way to learn about culture, new or old, to you is to immerse yourself in it entirely. Those of us who are fortunate enough to embark on such a journey never forget it. It lives with us forever. Imagine this: you leave your life in America for the promise of Italy. Upon arrival, you live out the days exploring the works of iconic artists like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, and experience evenings with great food and wine. You visit the breathtaking countryside of Tuscany and even become a wine connoisseur along the way. You stand in awe as you pass the Colosseum of Rome and you sail the Grand Canal of Venice. As your trip nears an end, you come to the conclusion that you just want to stay forever. Well, it sounds like my life, but this is the main idea of Andrew Cotto's Cucina Tipica. And I'm so lucky today to have as a special guest Andrew Cotto. So, Andrew, can you detail for our listeners your path to becoming an author and professor, and what drew you to the world of the written word?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the written word, came to me sort of later in my life. I'm unlike most authors I know, I didn't really grow up buried in books. I wasn't a voracious reader or even a particularly good student, which I'm loath to admit, especially as a professor of English now. But I discovered a love of literature in college. I was well into my studies. I think I was a junior in college, and my English class, my literature class, just really excited me, and I started, really immersing myself in works of literature. And also realized that, my fairly, adventurous life to that point lent itself to storytelling. I think I had stories to tell and interest in people. To make it quick, I had sort of an itinerant adolescence. I came from a really dynamic Italian-American family in New York. My father was a musician, and then we started moving around a lot. So I spent a lot of time in my adolescence moving around America. So I got exposure to lots of different kinds of people from both coasts and in between. And I felt like I had a pretty good command of characters and narratives, and then a new love of the written word. So I started pursuing it when I was, finishing my studies in college. When I finished college, though, I just was not desiring to be a writer and a teacher. My mother was a teacher as well. And I just didn't have the guts. I just felt like, it was too new to me. I didn't want to be a starving artist or looking for work in the realm of education or going back to school even at that point. I need to get my master's degree. Someone offered me a job in the entertainment industry and I took it. And it was a smart move. I was postponing my dreams, but it sort of helped establish me and give me some grounding for pursuing my dreams later. And those dreams came to me later when I went to Italy for the first time. I'd become an Italophile from the States. I'm Italian-American by descent, but I wasn't really much interested in the country of Italy beyond my roots in Sicily. I started to discover really good food and wine that was available in New York from America, restaurants from Rome, restaurants from Tuscany, etc. And I really became a big fan of Italian food and wine. I went for my first time in my early 30s, did the Venice, Florence, Rome thing, and was at the Florence stop, which was stop number 2 of this trip. And I said, I have to live here someday. And it's then I began sort of converting myself, making the plan, I should say, to live in Italy, but to live there for a year, write a book, and come back to the United States with my new dream ready to be pursued.
Wow. And that probably answers my next question, was why you chose Italy as the backdrop for Cucina Tipica. But that was probably it, right? In a nutshell, because it was probably so awe-inspiring. Well, you can tell us, but I think that you just said it there, right? Because you spent your time there and you were probably inspired by what you saw, what you did.
Absolutely. But the thing is, that's sort of interesting, is that the book that I was writing when I was there was not set in Italy at all. It's called The Domino Effect. It's a coming of age novel, the book I had in my head for all those years when I was planning on being a writer. So I went to Italy not to write the Italian book, actually set in New York. Back from Italy and went and got my master's degree, wrote another book about New York, a noir called Outer Borough Blues, a Brooklyn Mystery. People kept saying, both those books did have lots of food in them, though. Lots of Italian.
Okay, there you go.
And I began also writing journalism for the New York Times, Men's Journal, Post, various other. I was publishing recipes and Relish and other places. Most of them, of course, were Italian inspired. And people kept saying to me, "When are you going to write the Italian book? When are you going to write the Italian book?" And I didn't want to do a memoir. I didn't think my time in Italy was interesting enough to warrant a memoir. And I'm not really a memoir writer. I'm a fiction writer. And the joke I used to make all the time was that if I wrote a memoir about my time in Italy, it'd be called Eat, Drink, Repeat. And I think it probably troublesome to more people than entertaining. So I wanted to save the exploits of my gastronomic pursuits and keep them to myself. So I needed to fictionalize it, and it was slowly coming to me. I was visiting a lot. I was going once a year at least, sometimes on vacation, sometimes for assignment. And I was just falling more and more in love with it. But that summer that I spent in 2014 at John Cabot University in Rome was really the experience that made me think I had the Italian book in me. Not only was I in Rome for an extended period of time, but I was spending my weekends back in Tuscany, going up to Venice. I was moving all around the country as well in my free time. So I felt like, at that point, I just knew enough about the country itself to set a narrative there. Even if the narrative was about someone who was just discovering it, I still needed command over it, which is the reason I guess my previous books were set in New York, because I've had so much, exposure to New York City. So I came back from that summer, and my agent at the time was really pushing me towards something that was food oriented. Got the perfect story. So I came up with this narrative about an American who arrives in Italy on holiday, and he has complications in his life in New York. He's sort of escaping Italy for the time being. And once he gets there, he decides that he doesn't want to leave. The subtitle is An Italian Adventure, and the adventure part is him trying to find a way to stay there forever.
And it's a great book, by the way. So people need to look for Cucina Tipica, by the way. I just wanted to put that in there, especially if anyone has any interest in Italy or Italian things. It's a wonderful book to read.
Thank you.
That was why you chose Italy as your backdrop then. While this book leans heavily on the importance of family and food to Italians, I was wondering, do you ever find yourself, because as Italians, right, his food is such a big part of our history, right? Of your history, of any kind of get-togethers, anything. So, I wanted to ask you, so do you often find yourself in the kitchen cooking meals, and do you have any favorite dishes?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm a really good cook. I love cooking. I love feeding people. I love eating. It's my favorite thing to do in the world is to be around the table with people. Whether or being by myself, I like it's always, of course, enhanced by being with other people, especially if you care about those people. And I find that to be just, the moments of life that are the most joyous. So I'm always around the kitchen. I actually thought at one point of going into the food business, either opening my own specialty shop. I worked in restaurants in college, and I knew that a restaurant life probably wasn't for me. It was, the hours are too hard, and it kind of sucked the fun out of it for me in ways, where I didn't get to see the faces of the people I was feeding. All I heard was complaints. The waitress was like, "Where's this? Where's this?" It wasn't joyous for me to be in a restaurant kitchen at all. But I did love. It did make my cooking better. And I grew up cooking next to my mother. She was a wonderful inspiration to me. So food has that personal connection as well. And, it was every Sunday at my grandmother's, every event was a big deal that was always organized around food. And it's still like that in my life now. Tomorrow's my birthday, and I'm having a reading, by the way, for free at 6:00. I'm going to read from The Domino Effect. But I've been doing.
You are?
Yeah, throughout the shutdown, I've been doing readings I did the first 5 from Cucina Tipica. Was it 5 or 4? Where I read food scenes from Cucina Tipica and then made something, that I'd read afterwards in my kitchen. And I did the same thing for my other book, Outer Borough Blues, where I made a couple of dishes. And tomorrow night it's my birthday, I'm making beefsteak Fiorentina.
Wow.
And
Steak alla Florentina. Yep.
that's my birthday. Every year for my birthday, I had that. I put a candle in and everything. And then I'm also making, what I'm going to demonstrate how to make is a side dish from Tuscany called fagiolini uccelletto, the little bird.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's white beans with tomatoes and aromatics.
So wait, let's tell everybody where they can see this reading that are you doing it you're doing it on virtually?
Yeah. I'm doing it on Facebook Live and Instagram Live tomorrow night, July 1st, at 6:00 Eastern Time. I'll be reading from my kitchen passages from The Domino Effect, my first book. It's about an Italian-American kid from Queens who is a coming-of-age story, and food's a big part of the story. Naturally. And after I read, I'll be making a dish from Tuscany, which is like a white bean tomato dish, which is a great side, or a main course with bread if you don't eat meat. Afterwards, it's 6:00 Eastern on Facebook Live or Instagram Live. All my addresses are at Andrew Cotto, Cotto. It's easy to find me.
Recommend that to everybody. Definitely tune in. They're great dishes. They're very traditional dishes, artisan dishes that you just said. So definitely tune into that. You told us that you did teach at John Cabot University, but what was the experience like teaching there versus teaching here? Any comments or anything you can tell us, teaching there, teaching here? I guess it's a whole different thing.
Well, I mean, the students were American students, so they were international students. The university itself, John Cabot, is an American-owned institute, so all the teaching is in English. It wasn't like I had to do it in Italian, which would have been a disaster. I think I probably could have taught in Italian, maybe, but I wouldn't have understood what the students were saying back to me. The hardest part of Italian for me is understanding what people are saying to me. But the experience was great. I mean, it was summer school. It was a travel writing course, and there was 6 kids in the class.
Wow, that's a nice size.
It was great. I was so distracted by being in Rome.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even remember what the teaching part was like, which is something because I love teaching, I remember the kids, but the classroom experience, I was so excited to be in Rome, and it was a travel writing class. We were just talking a lot about travel. Exactly. And Rome, and then there was obviously craft and things brought into it. It was definitely sort of it felt like summer to me.
Oh, I can imagine all summer, an extended summer, because I can just imagine, yes, all those distractions, food and wine and the beautiful scenery, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, I hate to say this because I was without my family, but it was one of the best times of my life.
So what were some of your favorite places? Do you have any, I know I have, most of my favorite places in Italy are these little, there's the beautiful places like Florence and Rome and Venice, but a lot of my favorite places are little teeny out of the way. Do you have any places that are your favorite places to visit? It doesn't even have to be little teeny out of the way places, but do you have any places that were really your favorite places to visit?
Experience is so consistent. If you just go off the road somewhere into some unknown village and sit down at the local osteria, you're going to take a really good meal.
Yes.
So I think the secret is that there are no secrets, that everything is really good. Some of the sentimental things that I really like doing when I'm there, that I'll do every time I'm there. One unknown thing is to go back to the village where we lived. Where we lived, Tuscany was literally 5 kilometers from the Florence line, up in the hills south of the city, but no one has ever heard of it. I have friends who live in Fiesole, that beautiful town of outside Florence, just as close, who've never heard of this little village called Entella in the comune called Bagno a Ripoli. People just don't go to, and these villages are gorgeous. They're just so quaint and unfettered by tourism, which is really wonderful.
Yes.
That's where the book is set. Cucina Tipica, while it is a work of fiction, and the character has nothing to do with me at all, except for a love of food and Italian wine. It lives in the very village where we lived. He lives in the very barn where we lived. We lived in a renovated barn next to a villa up in the hills. So he occupies the same space that we did for that year. And I love that area so much, it's still unfettered, and that's one of the things in the book is they're going to try and, help this little area become discovered. One thing I always do, when I'm there more than once usually is go down to Chianti country. I think the drive through the Chiantigiana highway is so spectacular. I mean, it's just one of those things that makes me swoon every time I go on. I can't believe that this place is on Earth. The light is so surreal, and the hills and the winding roads. Of course, it's all immersed in wine country and olive oil country. So your topography is so fascinating. And I always go to Panzano to see Dario Cecchini, the world's most famous butcher. And I think that title of the world's most famous butcher is a little bit of a misnomer. I don't think it does him justice. I think he should be the world's most famous gastronome. The guy embodies everything that I love about food. That he's a beautiful human being. He's just the sweetest, kindest, most bravo guy I've ever met. He's a rock star, and he remembers everybody's name. Right? He's so humble, right, and so in love with feeding people and properly raising the animals that he uses. And that bean dish I'm making tomorrow night, he makes that's just incredible that he offers there. I mean, you can go to his restaurant. It's called like the Office of Steak, right? The Cucina Tipica. You can go there as a vegetarian and eat really well. Blown away by food. The aura of this guy just never, wears on me. I just think he's such a beautiful human being. I actually saw him in New York. So we used to go there all the time when we were living there. And then I wasn't back for like 5 years and walked in. He's like, remembers everything about every person that was walking through. Yes. His butcher shop, the original hospice that he offered, has food out all day long. There's wine, lovely Chianti wine from Chianti Classico out there just for your helping. There's porchettas on the counter. There's other, edibles that he has. It's a show every single day.
Yes.
And he never gets tired of it. If your listeners are not familiar with who he is or want to learn more about him, he was featured in season 6, episode 2 of A Chef's Table on Netflix.
There
And
you go.
he really did a magnificent job of capturing the entirety of what makes him who he is. So I always go see him. Then one thing I always like to do too, and these are all things that happen in the book, is a trip from south of Chianti country into Montepulciano.
Oh, yes.
And Montalcino, right? There's a drive that goes to the Val d'Orcia. That's just so incredible. That drive there too, it really, blows me away. I wrote about it I had a column for many years in Men's Journal, and I have a column an article dedicated to Dario, and also an article dedicated to this drive between Montepulciano and not Montepulciano the Grape. You might think from Abruzzo, right, where you're from. That's a wonderful drinking wine. There's a town called Montepulciano.
Yes, I know, and I've done that drive. It's just I'm with you on that, recommending that drive. That is amazing. It's so spectacular. I did not too long ago. We did a drive because I did an event at this castle in Chianti, and we did that drive. The one drive through Chianti and the other one where we did go to Montepulciano. And you're absolutely right. In Abruzzo, they have their own Montepulciano, but we did Montepulciano and Montalcino. Oh. Definitely. And I'm with you. That is like, oh my God, it's just heaven on earth driving through.
I always joke that that I assume that if there is a God, he lives in Rome, but I think his weekend house is in Montalcino.
Definitely.
Because it's just so spectacular when you drive up to that village. It's so lofted, and you could see forever. There's a great scene in the book where the main character does this drive, and then he goes to Montalcino and buys a case of Brunello just because he's just so in love with everything there. People like to go different places in the world, and I admire that. Like people who want to travel the world. I don't really want to travel the world because every place I go will be disappointment to me compared to what Italy brings.
Exactly. It's my sentiments. Exactly. It really is. I have a hard time when I travel anywhere else because you're absolutely right. It is disappointing. But yes, those drives are just, my goodness. And there's some spots there, right, that look like you're in a live painting, correct? It looks like you're in these live works of art that are just so breathtaking.
Oh, yeah. There's cypress trees in the distance and the fields of hay and the fields of green and like this monasteries. And I mean, it just, it fills me with awe.
It does.
And conjures wonder. And that's what I want when I travel, right? And then I sit down and think about it. Well, I'm eating like some of the best food ever imaginable and drinking with the best wine. And it all came from the vicinity. And by the way, before we get away from this, I want to go to an event at a castle in Chianti.
Yes, Castello d'Avola.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Did you ever? It's a little town, and actually they're a big distributor in Italy of Italian wine. Their name is Zonin, Zonin, and they bought over Castello d'Avola, d'Albola, and there's actually a sign there when you drive through Chianti, Castello d'Avola. They bought it over. A guy that used to do like ceramics and stuff, like in the 17th century. Once owned this castle. They bought it, and there's a big winery there, and it became part of their properties, and it's just amazing. But yes, it was so wonderful. I did an event there, and of course I got to stay there in a little part of the castle, drive all through. That's when I did my drive through Chianti and the Montepulciano, Montalcino. Oh my goodness. Just like it is heaven on earth. So Andrew, what's next for you? I know you started mentioning another book you're doing about Rome. That sounds great too.
So, Cucina Tipica, an Italian Adventure was my third novel. My fourth comes out this fall. It's a sequel to my second book. My second book is called Attleboro Blues, a Brooklyn Mystery. It's a noir. The protagonist is a chef, though, not a detective. So it's a pretty gritty, quasi-poetic noir with a really interesting main character. I wrote a sequel to that comes out this fall. It's called Black Irish Blues. And then in the meantime, what I'm working on now is a sequel to Cucina Tipica. I'm almost done. I will be done this summer for sure. I expect it to come up. I can get it to the publisher by the end of the summer. I expect it will come out in the spring of 2021, which would be wonderful. It's called Cucina Romana. It's same characters. Takes place primarily in Rome. It has sort of the same sort of pacing and indulgence in it. And I'm really, really happy with it. I mean, I know when something's not working when I'm writing. And this definitely feels like it is working. Every morning it's just coming out of me like breath. You know, it's so natural. It's also giving me great joy because I'm able to sort of disappear into Italy every morning when I can't be there. You know, one of the things, you know, I'm really sort of hoping that Cucina Tipica can do for people while we're unable to visit technically, or maybe some logistically people couldn't visit, you know, is that the idea behind Cucina Tipica is to transport you to Italy.
Yes.
Or in this case, Tuscany. There's excursions to Umbria and the Marche and then one scene up in the Italian Riviera, but mostly takes place in Tuscany. It's a very Tuscan inspired book. So I'm hoping, you know, I feel like Cucina Tipica is a trip to Tuscany. I hope Cucina Romana is like a trip to Rome.
Oh, wow. And yes, that was one reason why I definitely, besides wanting you definitely as a guest, because I love that book, Cucina Tipica, but also I wanted some way that we can transport listeners to Italy, because unfortunately, at least now and for a little while, I don't think anyone's going to be able to go, but I think it's a great book to just kind of get lost in Italy, even if it's only in your mind. Tell us where, I want to, before I ask you the last question, where can people find you? I know we talked about Facebook, so tomorrow night on Facebook and Instagram Live at 6:00. And, you just talked about your book, and I'm assuming Amazon and all the places for books, they can find all your books. They just look up your name.
Yeah, it's I'm all over Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore if you're interested in using them to procure your books, which I recommend as well. They probably don't have them on their shelves, you know, unless they're New York based or in Boston. But they can order it. The bookstores, right? So the distributor can get it to them so easily. Find me on social media. I'm pretty active on social media. As a writer, I'm the rare extrovert. I really like talking to people and readers and interacting. You know, I've done book clubs through Skype. I do them in person. So any readers who want to be in touch with me directly, I'm happy to be in touch with anyone interested in talking about Italy or anything I've written. So I'm Andrew Cotto at everything, you know, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. You know, the Pinterest page has all my articles that I write. My LinkedIn page has all my articles too. I need to update them a bit more on my website. I'm on YouTube too. So a lot of my readings are available on YouTube as well as I was on TV here in New York last summer talking about Cucina Tipica. And there's a really quick interview there on my YouTube that has me explain the book in a little more detail. I'm also there with some Brunello Montalcino and some cinghiali, some wild boar ragu, you know, for the hosts to enjoy. So it's a sort of a fun little segment on my YouTube channel. Talking more about myself. Sorry.
No, definitely. And I was going to say, we'll probably try to put as many links as we can on my blog post that I'm doing to promote this. So, people can find there, but you know, I know you're easy to find. I love your Instagram account too. All the Italy and Italian culture and everything is wonderful. So my last question is, and I'm sure you have a good answer to this, because as Italians, you know, I was just going to stop for a minute and just to laugh. Isn't it funny how food to us, I don't think people understand what a big part food plays in our lives, so much so, because do you find yourself like, it's like a natural thing to offer food to people? You know, it's like a contractor comes and you're like giving them food, and it's like, you know, they look at you like, I mean, it's just something that is just a natural thing to us. Giving food is almost like giving love or giving, you know, showing someone kind of a kindness. For us, that's what we grew up with, correct? Absolutely. And I just think it's so funny, because I think I used to think that was funny that my grandparents and relatives did that, and now I do the same thing. So it's so part of our culture. But what does food mean to you?
Well, food to me is not to seem grandiose, but it's everything. If I were to write a memoir, I think it literally would be called, killing time between meals. Because I'm just trying to, get from one meal to the next because I find there's such pleasure in it and such enjoyment, and to me, it's universal connection between human beings. There's certain things that we all do as human beings, and of those things, I think, we're speaking in a communal sense, and I am very much an inclusive person. That food is the best way to sort of to make that connection with other people. So I think it works socially. It works for me personally. Gives me the idea of what I'm having for dinner that night, and then having my aperitivo or my cocktail, whatever, and then making dinner and pairing it with the right wine brings me such joy. Looking forward to it, of course. I love being, having something on the horizon each day that's going to make me very happy. Enjoying it, of course, is wonderful. Whether I'm home alone or with my family's here, doing it in a bigger context with friends is even more valuable. I love holidays, I throw huge holidays. I make Italian Thanksgiving and a big Easter. It's great. It just means it provides so much value to my life, but it also provides wellness. Eating well. I don't even eat dessert. I'll have cake tomorrow on my birthday, but most of the food I eat is healthy, and raised, in a way that I'm aware of. And the wine I drink, I try to keep it, as organic as possible. And I get a sense of good health for that. People are always astonished that I'm always talking about food and wine, et cetera, and that I'm healthy. And I am healthy because what I put into my body is quality. That's what I love about Italy is that, eating well and drinking well in Italy is not a privilege. It's a right. And I find that I am healthier emotionally, physically, because of what I put in my body. That's important.
Yes, that's a wonderful answer. I love that it's a universal connection. That's wonderful. Andrew, happy birthday, Tanti Auguri. Happy birthday in Italian, and enjoy that. And everyone, please go to that live event. That should be marvelous. And if you need any little indication or little whatever names of these little teeny places in Rome, please feel free to let me know for your book. If you do,
I will.
Definitely let me know.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much for your expertise.
No problem. It's a joy talking to you. Thank you so much. Have a great one, and we'll be sharing links and everything with you too. Thanks again, Andrew. Have a great one.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye. I hope you're able to enjoy a true Tuscan staycation this summer. Thanks for joining us and listening to the Maria Liberati Show. If you have any recipes that were inspired by my recipes here, the panzanella salad and the grilled porcini mushrooms, or would like to take a picture of these recipes that you're preparing for your Tuscan staycation, or a picture of you having a Tuscan staycation, please show it off and share it with us. Hashtag it the Maria Liberati Show and post it on social media. My accounts are twitter.com/Maria Liberati. The M is a capital M. Facebook is facebook.com/Chef Maria Liberati. Instagram, Maria Liberati, and Chef_Maria Liberati. We'll be gathering pictures and posting on a special page on my website in the next few weeks also. Thanks to my producer, Britton Rozelle, and my writing intern, David Hunt. Go to my website, marialiberati.com, to keep up with my blog and the show and the book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking. Push that button to like, share with your friends. Join me on Twitter at Maria Liberati with a capital M, on Instagram at Maria Liberati and Chef_Maria Liberati, on Facebook at Chef Maria Liberati, and on Pinterest at Maria Liberati. And this podcast is heard all over the world on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and more. What does food mean to you? Hashtag your answer with hashtag the Maria Liberati Show in a recorded soundbite of 60 seconds or less, or a social media post of 50 words or less, post on social media or email it to me at maria@marialiberati.com. If selected for an upcoming podcast segment, you'll receive an autographed copy of one of my books from the book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking. Love to hear from you. If you have any questions or ideas for upcoming segments, also email me directly at maria@marialiberati.com. Until next time, peace, love, and pasta.